Good morning to all. Today we are going to discuss about object-oriented design methodology under the .NET technology course. Our learning object is to design and development of object-oriented methodology, and we will also use UML notations or the diagrams for object-oriented modeling or the methodology. Now, first of all, we will try to understand what is object-oriented methodology. Now, object-oriented methodology is a new system approach which basically encourages the reusability of our software components. We basically create lots of software components, and with respect to the requirement of the different software applications, we will able to use all those kind of software components. So it means that the entire application is being divided into the number of components. It also employs the international standard using UML for object management group. So they have been providing the methodology to develop a system on the basis of its existing components and the facilities which are sharing with the other system components. So normally object-oriented methodology asks the analyst to determine what objects of the systems are and who are having a what kind of a responsibility and their relationship in between the objects into the entire system applications. So moving ahead, the object-oriented designing, it helps us to understand the overall system design and its development. So the design system, it basically cater with the object-oriented based techniques as well as using the object-oriented programming languages such as C#, Java, Python, and other programming languages which support OOPs. It also signifies the conceptual schema about what is the model, what can be the use case, what will be the system relations with each other, what can be the user interfaces, and the another analysis through which you can put up your data into the system. So it basically provide you to understand the entire conceptual schema of a system, or you can say that process. Then accordingly you design and you develop an application on the basis of those inputs. It also identify and design the system classes, objects, and their relationships with their interfaces and implements with the small levels of the data inputs and the segregation of the data with respect to their own processes. Now the types of object-oriented methodologies, you can say that there are three types. One is that object modeling techniques, then the process methodology, and the rational unified process. Now let's understand with the object modeling techniques. So the object modeling techniques was introduced by James Rambach in 1991. They have been making use of this object modeling techniques with the help of the requirements analysis. Then as we have just suggested that the entire inputs is to be taken care, then they prepare an object model, then they prepare the dynamic model. Accordingly, what can be the different type of scenarios and the functionality or the process that you have to define under the functional model. Then all these kind of a three groups is to be incorporated, and you will able to make a specific design with respect to the database or with respect to the GUI. Then you will start with the coding. So these all are small diagram representation of the object modeling techniques. Let's have a quick brief about the components which has been used for this modeling techniques. That is, one is the object model, then dynamic model. In object model, normally you identify the different classes and their relationship in between them, then you represents its static structure of a particular system. It also observes all the objects which are static and does not pay any attention to their dynamic nature. Then accordingly you just try to remove it, then you restructure your modeling, then again you will put up into the refine mode. What exactly into the dynamic model is that it captures the behavior of the system over the time. So whenever you are having some kind of an events triggering system, then on the specific timing you prepare a event trace diagrams, then you will try to understand the state of the objects, then you prepare the state transition diagram accordingly, then you overall portray the changes occurring in the states of the various objects within that particular events. Similarly, we can produce a kind of a data transformation under the functional models. We basically define the process, then you design the data transformation and what kind of a data, the flow of the data, the DFD is also one of the part under which are coming into the functional. So the entire process which describes the input data and then after processing what kind of the changes occurring in occurring during that particular uh, data that will come out. Accordingly you will store it and you will review it. So these all are coming under the functional model. So design is also one of the important part. When you identify the small inputs, then the process, then you overall able to design the system. So it specifies the all the details which is needed to describe how the system will be implemented. So in this phase, the details of the system analysis and the system design are implemented. Next is the object process methodology. So in this particular object process methodology, you consist of the three main processes, the processes which will be initiating, then developing and deploying. It determines the high level requirement, the scope of a system and the resources which will be required, then developing. It contains all the detailed analysis, design and the implementation of the system. Then you will try to deploy the entire components of your system. So that always come into the object process methodology. Under this rational unified process, the it basically describe or elaborate the entire iterations which we will incorporate in your the system. So it represents with their own type of diagrammatics representation through UML. So it consists of the four phases: inception, elaboration, construction and the transitions. So transitions, it means that whatever the activities you will take place, then what can be the data transition and how the data is to be transitioned from one object to the another object, that you have to artifacts into this particular system design. So let's understand the objectives of the object-oriented methodologies. That is the most important part. It encourages the great use of the reusability concept in the entire software lifecycle. It produces the more detailed specifications of the system constraints. So basically, when you will try to make use of the entire application, when you able to identify the system objects and the classes, the hypothesis and their relations, their aggregations, then accordingly, if you will able to design the entire application with their system constraints. So to have a fewer problems with the validation, always you can put up the constraints. So what are the benefits? It represents the problem domain, very easily produce and understand the design. It provides a simplicity. It is providing the reusability. It increases the quality. It is having a maintainability. When I talk about the maintainability, you can understand that the separate component, if I'm able to implement it, I can very much easily be attached with the existing code. So that is the beauty of this particular object oriented methodology with respect to the maintainable. And you can say when you're able to do that, so definitely, so whatever the requirements, and you can say that is coming from the client side, so it my application get scalable. You need not to touch the entire code for that, but you can moreover approach is having the scalability. So it provides the modularity approach, it provides the scalability, you will able to modify, you will have a client server architecture system through which you will able to implement your application. Now understanding the UML, that is the most important part, and through which the entire notifications and the entire architecture is depending on that. Even though in international level or the national level with respect to the projects, the UML is the standards. So each and every company, each and every project, without UML, they cannot proceed further. So UML stands for the Unified Modeling Language. It is basically provides a standard notation for modeling of the real world objects as a first step in developing an object-oriented methodology. It is a general purpose modeling language in the field of the software engineering. It is a standard visual modeling language which is used for the modeling business and similar process, and as well as you will able to go for the analysis, design and implementation of the software based system. It is a standard modeling language, not a software development process. So definitely it is representing the entire software life cycle. Okay. Now, these all are the some advantages related with the UML because it provides the standard of the software development. It reduces the cost of the develop diagrams of UML with supporting tools, reduces the development time. Why I can say that development time? Because with the help of the UML, you will identify the each and every class behavior and its connections, or you can say their generalizations and their aggregation, the entire objects relations, and the specifications related with the respect to the users as an actor which you can provide it, and the actor responsibility to make use of the different type of functions. If we are able to identify the entire diagrammatic system, so definitely it will reduce the development time with respect to the coder. So these are some of the advantages. So we can understood with this UML diagram under which the various applications has been dividing into the different level of the diagrammatic system. One is that structure diagram, as initially we have just tried to understood with respect to the object oriented designing concept, which the structure diagram is basically constituting the class diagram, the component diagram, composite structure, the entire deployment diagram, object diagram, the package diagram and profile diagram, as well as, so these all are the external entities which as in component which you can describe separately. And when with respect to the interaction diagram, basically it provides you to how they are communicating, each and every process how they are communicating. So with respect, you have to go for the communication diagram, the interaction overview diagram, the sequence diagram and the timing diagram as well. And how the behavior diagram, it means that it involves with the activity diagram and use case diagram and with the state machine diagram. So all these kind of a diagrammatic approaches gives us the robust scenario with respect to the system development and the application development with the help of object oriented designing concept. And with respect to the UML diagrammatical representation, we are able to give a good and robust application designing aspects with as per the business demands. So these are the some basic details. What is inside the use case diagram, class diagram, sequence diagram, collaboration diagram, state diagram, activity diagram, component diagram, and the deployment diagram. So this all about it. The more you can find out with the online references as well as the references books, you can identify with the more detail on the respective topic. I hope you understood the basic object-oriented design mechanism and the UML notifications with respect to the different type of applications development. If you have any query, you can reach me out at vikas.srivastava@galgotiasuniversity.edu.in. Thank you for watching me.